Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and it's Monday. That means it's countdown day, as always, here on the channel. And this one is the top 10 Transformers planes that aren't seekers. That's going to be our focus this time around, as voted on by fans all across social media in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, loud 'em up, baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member. And this is going to be the top 10 planes in Transformers that aren't seekers, because I think if I just left it as top 10 planes, a lot of the seekers, you know, right away, Skywarp, Thundercracker, and Starscream would have probably been number 1, 2, and 3. So I said, what about those characters that aren't seekers? And there's been a lot of planes in Transformers, good and bad, a whole lot. And of course, I've amassed the voting here for you guys, and we're going to kick things off with the honorable mentions first. And there are 4 honorable mentions this time around. The voting really close for these. We had Misfire. We had, who else? Skydive from the Aerial Bots. Darkwing, one half of Dreadwing. And from the last night, Nitro Zeus. All of them great options. None of them seekers. Yeah, you know what? They all make a fair case for getting votes. But none of those guys appeared on the list. You know what we're going to do? We're going to kick things off with number 10 of first. Number 10 isn't even G1. I love that. I like when we get diversity into the countdown, but it is one of my favorite planes and favorite characters in all of Transformers lore. Who am I talking about? Good old Lugnut. Now, a lot of the votes came in for animated Lugnut. Obviously, this is the Reveal the Shield version because I like the Generations aesthetic better. A lot of people said that his plane mode was just overshadowing of so many characters. It was big, it was boisterous, you knew Lugnut was coming, it had impact, it had volume, it had presence, and it still does to this very day. And for that reason, Lugnut takes the number 10 slot. Number 9 takes us to one of 2 entries from the Aerial Bots on this list by way of Air Raid. Now, it's so funny. Sometimes people will say, oh, the Aerial Bots. I'm like, guys, that's a group. Not everybody in the group is equal, and this is case in point. I'm going to tell you now, all 5 members of the Aerial Bots all had a different number of votes. When I would ask for people to specify the name, they would specify a name or 2, and guess what? This guy came out with enough votes, probably because he has a really cool plane style, and I love how his wings move. He can look so sleek, or he can look I don't know, very wing heavy, if that's a thing. I don't know much about planes. What do you want? But I do admit that his color scheme, the fact the wings move, the overall aesthetic and look of this guy in plane mode cannot be denied. And enough people felt the same way that he was able to take the number 9 slot. Now, number 8, I don't actually have a plastic representation of for this character. He is loathed by his team, and he is arguably the dirtiest player in the game. He'll use every trick in the book to claim victory, unless you disarm him. Then he turns into a sniveling coward. Who am I talking about? None other than Decepticon Pterodive. Pterodive is very interesting. He has a bit of a cult following, really associated with the films, for the most part. And his plane mode is very strange, with almost like the forward sweeping wings and a trident as his weapon. I think that that's a very different take. I also believe it was used as, I want to say, depth charge for BotCon or the Collectors Club, maybe? I could be wrong about that. Either way, enough people remember Pterodive and his unique plane mode that he was able to take the number 8 slot. Now, as we move into number 7, I should also point out that for Terradive, I lumped in a couple of votes for Space Case that use the same mold. Again, movie Space Case. So number 8 was actually, I didn't really explain it there, but number 8 was actually Terradive / Space Case. But number 7, again, I don't have a representation of, though it's a character I'd like to have one of, and you never know, maybe one day. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about he who became the leader of the Autobots, Star Saber. Yes, granted, it was a little bit later on in the continuity, of course, and arguably, because Star Saber appeared last week on having a space mode, it could be said that his ship mode is actually a spaceship rather than a plane. But it does have wings, and the argument could also be there that it's a plane. Some people said, well, what about when he's not combined to his larger body? The smaller body, that's a plane, and I see the argument for that. So maybe Saber is a plane. Maybe Star Saber is a space thing. And maybe all of it is just a space plane. It can be both. Anyway, you cut it. Enough people thought that Star Saber and his wings deserved to be called a plane that he was able to take the number 7 slot. For number 6, is it a truck? Is it a robot? Is it a plane? It's Octane. Yeah. I mean, sure. Okay, Octane, yeah. Some people said, if Octane counts, why wouldn't he count? Some people said, yeah, but he also has a truck mode and he's a triple changer. He has a discrete, explicit, expressed plane mode. One of his modes officially is a plane, and yeah, and it's a big plane, like it's a convincing plane. Even in robot mode, he has big plane wings sticking out. Octane, one of my favorite planes. Just so happens he's a triple changer as well. Anyway, you cut it, enough people think that Octane deserved to be on this list that he was able to take the number 6 slot. Can you smell it? Do you know where we are? You know where we are. We are at the most coveted of locations, the ever-popular halfway mark. And at the halfway mark today, we have our second of the Aerial Bots entries. It is the most unique plane from that set. It is the leader of the group himself. He who is afraid of heights, Silverbolt. Silverbolt takes the halfway mark. You know what? It makes sense, I suppose. If you aren't talking about the Seekers, then the next most popular, well-known planes are probably the Aerial Bots. And of course, the leader of them being this guy with the most unique plane mode, that being a Concorde. So, yeah, he makes sense being on this list. I thought he was actually going to get higher. But, you know what? Maybe he fits right in at the halfway mark. Now, coming in at number 4 is someone who had a lot of votes last week for the space modes list. And I thought it was a bit strange because I always interpreted him more as a plane, even though he has flown in space. Who am I talking about? None other than Cyclonus. I think of Cyclonus as a plane. Now, some people would say, yeah, but he's flown in space. He has. Maybe he's a space plane. But then again, so did Starscream. I don't know how these planes fly in space. I see him, I think, plane. And he has kind of, much like Terradive, he has that frontward sweeping wings. They look a little unique. They look a little different. Huge, nose on the guy. But he looks very aerodynamic, very sleek. Undoubtedly, when you see the guy, I think the first idea that comes to mind is, wow, looks like a futuristic plane. Or maybe a space plane. Anyway, you cut it. There's wings on this guy, and he is, in fact, a plane, and that's why he was able to take the number 4 slot. Number 3 is a character that expressly has wing in his name. He's a character who has wings sticking off of his body in robot mode. In fact, he's one of the quintessential planes next to the Seekers. Who am I talking about? Blitzwing. Not a Seeker, but definitely one of the earliest Decepticon planes introduced. Outside of the Seekers, he may have been the first Decepticon plane introduced, arguably. Somebody would have to double check that, but I think he may have been the first plane that was a Decepticon and not a Seeker, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, wing in his name. He has wings on his back. He has a solid, beautiful plane mode. Blitzwing. He takes the number 3 slot. And sliding in at number 2, we go from one of the oldest Decepticon planes that wasn't a Seeker to one of the newest planes This one being an Autobot and being Windblade. Windblade, not a Seeker, but she does have, a close affinity, I'll call it, for Starscream, or at least this version, this generation's version did. Arguably, some people might say, hey, that mold was also used for a Seeker by way of Slipstream in Japan. It was, but Windblade herself, an Autobot, not a Seeker, and a ton of people love her plane mode enough that she was able to take, man, the number 2 slot. And that only brings us and leaves us with number 1. Now here at number 1, we actually have number 1, and then we have what I'm calling bonus number 1. Stick with me and I'll explain. The official number 1 is going to be this guy, Powerglide. Probably the earliest Autobot plane, if I'm not mistaken, next to another character. The second earliest Autobot plane, certainly one of my favorites, certainly a fan favorite and a crowd pleaser. And you know what? Certainly one who stands out, and I thought was going to be a foregone conclusion on this list. Kind of surprised that he made it this high, but I'm okay with it because I'm a big fan of Powerglide. Now, I did mention that he was one of the earliest Autobot planes. The other one being Jetfire or Skyfire, which brings us to bonus number 1. Bonus number 1, I'm just going to reach down here because how often do we get to look at this? Bonus number 1 is going to be none other than Jetfire or Skyfire. Now, that being said, here's why he's a bonus number 1. So the official number 1 is Powerglide, obviously not a Seeker. This guy, depending on the fiction and the continuity, has been a Seeker. Now, some of the votes that came in for Cybertron, Jetfire. Cool. I would argue that Jetfire is honestly more of a spaceship than he is a plane, but cool. Whatever. A ton came in for the movieverse. What was it? Revenge of the Fallen version, who started out as a Seeker and kind of changes sides. The G1 version, who started out as a Decepticon Seeker and changed sides. And the War for Cybertron version, who started out as the leader of the Seekers and changed sides. I counted the votes because this is obviously not the Seeker body. Yes, I know this particular Thrilling 30s mold was used for the Seekers, but traditionally Jetfire or Skyfire's body type is not the Seeker body type, and that's why I counted the votes for him. If you are somebody who ardently believes that, yeah, he is a Seeker, he shouldn't have been on the list, then your list ended with Powerglide. He was your number 1. If you're somebody who looks at this and says, yeah, it's obviously not the same body type as Starscream and Thundercracker and Skywarp and the Rainmakers and the Coneheads, it's obviously not that, so it's fine, it counts, then he is your new number 1. There you have it, man. We've gone from 10 down to 1 once again. Actually, we went from 11 down to 1 or 10 down to 1 and then bonus 1. It depends on how you look at it. It was a little bit of a different one, but I did feel like that in the top slot I had to kind of explain things because I understand the argument that some people would have saying, hey, Jetfire/Skyfire could be construed as a Seeker. I don't see it that way. That's why he's at the top. But if you do, like I said, your list will end with Powerglide. Who else had some votes here? What about Elita 1, Overlord? What about Ape-Face? Technobot Strafe, Meteor Fire from Cyberverse. He had a couple. Six Shot, because he has a plane mode. Who else do we have here? Skyquake from Transformers Prime and Dreadwing from Transformers Prime. Skylynx had a vote, but I don't really agree with that one. Who else had a vote here? Viper had a vote. Ferak had a vote. Stormcloud had a vote, and Slug Slinger and Trigger Happy also had some votes. It was a lot. It was fun. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we offer to you through Teespring. Or, of course, hit the join button right here on YouTube to become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget that somehow, someway, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit. Either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old fashioned way, baby, right here inside the videos.